If you're like me, you've got contacts in every single possible format. Email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it's becoming harder and harder to stay on top of them. To help me make sense of this mess, I use Smarter Contacts, the free app that automatically creates rich profiles for all my contacts right on my smartphone. The thing I love most about this app are the rich profiles it creates. I can see photos, job titles, company details, and updates from social networks all in one place, all in context. This is a free app and available on all mobile platforms. Head to www.untether.tv/smarter to download it today. This is M-Pulse, episode number 6, and we're recording this on Thursday, February 16th, 2012. My name, Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv. If you're coming from Peggy's side of the family, Untether.tv is a great resource for you to go and listen and learn and watch how companies, entrepreneurs have built these mobile companies around the world. Global audience, global companies. Go and check it out. It's all free. Untether.tv. With me, as always, from Germany, is Peggy Ann Saltz. Peggy.
Hey, Rob.
From Mobile Groove, of course, mobilegroove.com. What else are you involved with these days?
Well, I'm getting ready for Mobile World Congress, so that's my 24/7 project at the moment, scheduling all that. But I do want to take the opportunity because now I'm a seasoned veteran, right? I can go out and I can actually check out some cool companies, go to some of the events around Mobile World Congress, the Mobile World Fringe events, for example. And I'm looking forward to really connecting with some companies. And hey, this will be going on the air pre-Mobile World Congress, so I still have some slots open, and I love meeting with companies with good ideas, great stories, great technology. I'm not one of those people who's hard to access. No. So that's my plug. Pitch me.
No snobbery here, right? No technology snobbery from Peggy. So hit her up. Get her in front of you. She'll give you some insight. It's good. Who knows? You might end up being on this very show as one of the folks, the fine folks that we raise our goblet of rock to. So get in touch with Peggy. It was a busy week, it seemed, this week. We sit down and we're going to discuss a few things, some of the big stories, some of the trending stories that we feel are very important for you to know about. And we're going to do that in a moment. But I'm going to give you a little teaser here because we sat down with Roberto Piracini, and Roberto is an accomplished voice guy. This is the month of the voice, and we sat down with Roberto. He's been doing this for over 25 years. In this industry, in the voice industry, before mobile, obviously. But he's also the author of an upcoming book that's going to be released in April. And we sat down, we just had a great conversation with him, and it was far-reaching about where voice came from, where it's going, the impact of voice, and his own view of what, how important voice is going to be. It was great. I loved it. I loved it. I could probably spend, he's kind of an infectious guy that you could spend hours speaking with him, couldn't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm still reeling from it. I'm thinking, we have to have him back again. Mm-hmm. They've all been really good so far. It's really hard to choose, but he made it so accessible, so understandable. It's like, you forget that he's one of the fathers out there of voice. He's been following it from the beginning, but it was, I understood it. Layman's questions, layman's answers, fantastic.
Yeah. And we should say that
we've done people a service by bringing it.
Exactly. So enjoy that. Our final guest on the voice side will be next week. It'll be Ken Harper from Nuance, which again, great knowledge when it comes to this space that, all of a sudden has popped up, and it kind of does this every bunch of years. And you'll hear Roberto's thoughts and as well Ken's thought next week, but Roberto this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed these, and please, we'd love some feedback. Reach out to us anywhere you find this, either on mobilegroove.com or on tether.tv. We'd love to hear your feedback or comments or suggestions. Thank you for watching. So, Peggy, a lot of talk. I'm going to just jump right into this. A lot of talk this past week around this little company out of California called Path. I don't know if you've played with the software. Have you played with Path on the iPhone?
No, but I saw it pop up on the radar. Really, there's a lot going on out there. I'll just leave you to it. I love your rants, Rob.
Well, I'm gonna bring it down because I'm gonna bring it down.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring it down. Certainly, we haven't talked about anything about Path before, but this is a company that in essence, is for us old guys like me. What I do is I forget where I've been quite often. Restaurants I'm talking about in new cities, those kind of things. And I really enjoy capturing that. So I use Foursquare, but Path is a great way. It's a beautiful way. It's a beautiful, beautiful app that allows you to track your whereabouts. Really simple. You check in, you take photos, you can do a whole bunch of things. You can, tell people what you're listening to, and it's limited here. The network is limited to 150 close friends. So that's Dunbar's number, right? Which is that you can only have these relationships with 150 people, good close relationships with them. And I'm going to put up a screenshot here. It is just simply beautiful, right? It's just a beautiful, beautiful app that allows you to do a whole bunch of things like, check in, and it publishes all these things to things like Foursquare, publishes to things like Foursquare, to Flickr, to all your accounts, to Facebook, and it's a beautiful app. They got in trouble this week because they did something that they didn't tell anybody about, which was when you signed up and it said, would you like to find friends who are using Path? And you say yes in the application, it uploaded all of your contacts that it found to their servers to do some quick matching, and then it would display who was already using Path, part of your friends. But the challenge was that they didn't tell anybody that they were doing that. They didn't make it clear. It violates Apple's developer agreements. So these are big things that all of a sudden came out. And I think that they knew about this because they released an update very quickly, much too quickly for them to have not been working on it in the background, within a day. And we know that Apple doesn't work that way. So they must have known about it, and then they flipped on this. They flipped on the update. But what it did was it just kind of brought to light, again, some of the vulnerabilities in this whole concept of minimum viable product. The guys from Path said, listen, this is something that we wanted to do this as a feature, and I believe this wholeheartedly that they weren't doing this maliciously, but we wanted to do this as a feature so that we can help you find your friends faster and do it in a way that is non-intrusive and quick. They just got caught. I mean, we don't like our privacy being... probably all of us would have said yes had they given us the choice, but because they didn't, it angered a bunch of people. So we at Untether decided to come up with a strategy. We've been covering this for quite some time at Untether last week, and we invited a great guy that we do a lot of work with. His name is Jeff Bacon from Bacon on the Go and bacononthego.com to come on and give us his insight into 4 things that people who are building products, software developers in the mobile space, should be integrating with privacy and accessing, when you're accessing someone's personal data. These 4 things, it's a checklist that you should use, that you should embrace when you're doing this. And I'm just gonna read through them bullet by bullet. You can go to untether.tv and find it there. But those 4 things that anybody building a product, and this should be minimum viable product, or else you should be incorporating these things. First one is security, the secure transmission layer. That data that you're sending from the device to the servers, if you're doing that, should at least at minimum be over something like HTTPS or provide, anything with an SSL. You have to do that. So really key, secure the data transmission is number 1. Number 2 is, do you really need that data itself, or do you need just to match it together? Do you need all the data? Do you need all of these things to be sent, or is there just something like an email address that you could exchange and match by that way? Do you need all, like, date of birth and all those things? Because it's come to light that companies like Instagram and some of the big guys who are playing like this, even Foursquare was involved was doing this as well, and they quickly just changed very quickly over the last couple of days their process as well. But do you need all that information? The third one, you got to have a clearly written policy document on what information you're collecting and why. Why are you using everybody's personal information? If there is no reason, don't. And the fourth thing, if you need to store somebody's personal information, like, you got to determine whether or not you need to or not, but you make sure that you're storing it something secure, hashed, or doing whatever it takes so that that data does not end up in the wrong hands, or that there's no chance. You just got to make sure that that data is stored. Those are the 4, that data that's stored is very secure. Those are the 4 things, a checklist. If you're not doing those, if you're sending or transmitting personal data, please do us a favor. Go read that article. Make sure that you're adhering to those things. Make it as part of your minimum viable product, because we're not going to accept this anymore. This is out in the light. This is way out in the light now. Don't make these mistakes, the same mistake that Path does, because it can have a lasting and detrimental effect on your business, your relationship with your customers. We feel deceived sometimes, although I still use Path because I think it's a beautiful product. So that's it. These are the minimum viable product inclusions that you need when it comes to privacy controls for users. And go and check it out at untether.tv. That wasn't that much of a rant.
It wasn't that much of a rant. It was actually very, very good rant, Rob. I heard it for the first time today, and the one about what you're collecting data for, yeah. I think that's for everything, all things mobile, digital, / converged, because that goes for apps, that goes for marketing, that goes for location. That's the whole thing right there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, it was good, and Jeff Bacon, as I said, is a great contributor to what we've done here. I used to do a podcast with him quite regularly until we both got just too jammed, called Two Guys on Mobile, and he writes every once in a while for these, and he comes up with these great topics. So the title is Hey Startups, Minimum Viable Product Includes Privacy Controls for Users. Go check it out at untether.tv. Give it a read. All right, Peggy, what was big for you this week?
Well, not nearly as milestone as that, because I'm always the one watching, first of all, because I'm writing books, I'm writing reports. I'm the writing machine over here for a number of companies, my own as well as my clients. So I'm always looking at data points. I'm looking at how we know what we know, how we can plan based on that. What are the stats telling us? So, and of course, global world, I'm looking at reports that we don't usually run across, because I think that those are the companies, those are the reports that fill in those gaps. I love niche reports. So yes, we do need the mega reports, the IDCs, the Forresters, the Gartners, we need those. But I also am inspired by the reports along the way that I think are filling the knowledge gap. So what I'm looking at is Lightspeed Research. They do a lot of research in Europe, so it's UK, the European 5, and that's also important as we look more to global strategies or companies thinking about coming to Europe. I'll be at Mobile World Congress. I'm meeting a ton of American companies in Spain, so I know that everybody's looking beyond their markets. And what we have from Lightspeed Research is we have some interesting data points. Again, nothing earth-shattering, but important confirmations that what we think we know, we actually do know. So what the first one tells me from Lightspeed Research is they're looking at how we access news and information, which is nothing new. I know that. But sort of the instant gratification in Europe, the whole idea that this is a report based on UK, so that, it's not just, yes, we access news and information using our mobile. No, we want the first news of the day on mobile, or we want to connect with the social networks. We want to get that. That's part of what we need, So to put it a different way, North America, because I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm not foreign to North America and Europe, we're now more and more in sync on our instant gratification. Okay, that urge is in sync, and that spells opportunity if you're in the business that serves that urge. So just to give you a couple stats, and I'll have the others over at Mobile Groove in this super long, epic post that I write every Monday. But, the 18 to 34-year-olds, nothing new there, but, they're getting into the groove for instant gratification. They look to Facebook. 16% get their news and information over mobile. So it's growing. It's coming up from nowhere, 9% on Facebook. I mean, you have to consider the level, and then the growth is actually quite staggering. And this goes back to another report from Lightspeed Research I was very impressed with, because no one has done reports on what people think about barcodes. We know that they're scanned. We have a scan by report coming through every quarter on how many people are scanning, and we've got these great stories about companies using them like Taco Bell. But what about the people? And again, Lightspeed Research brought us a report about that instant gratification. Yes, the people that were surveyed. They want instant access to information, see QR codes as a way to get that information. And interestingly enough, you've got a vast majority of it. 87% of people say, yeah, I get it. This is really useful. This is really, really useful. But at the same time, you've got other percentages, around a third, depending on the question, saying, well, it's useful, but I can't use it because I don't know which app to download or how. Or it's useful, but I don't really know if I'm interested in using it because the brand didn't make it clear to me why I need to scan this QR code in the first place. I mean, what's the benefit? What am I going to get when I scan it? Do I get information? Do I go to a boring landing page? What's going on here? Do I get content that I can even get on my phone? So again, an interesting data point that sends a huge, I think, an important message out to the wider QR community of people in the space. Yes, it's great. People want it. It fulfills that instant gratification urge for information, but it also needs to be accompanied by an education effort, an education campaign. Tell us how to download the app. Tell us how to use it. Tell us which one. We have a proprietary thing going on here with apps, of course, for scanners. And what do we get when we scan? What's the benefit? What's in it for me? We're talking about millennials. It's always about what's in it for me. So those are my two interesting data points. I'll leave you to you, Rob.
Well, it is interesting because you know, North America, at least Americans, are always perceived as the I want right now, and that always dovetails into what is in it for me, right? And especially around the retail space, like the retail is crazy. Is it? I believe very firmly, and I think that this research really corroborates that every single one of us has a price. And the price, you know, is usually a little bit of our privacy for a little bit of something in return. You want my postal code, IKEA? You want my zip code, IKEA? I'm not going to give it to you until you give me something. Right? I want 5% off. That's what I think my postal code is worth. So it's a currency exchange. And I think that's very interesting to see that.
Well, privacy is actually, you know, it's quite an issue where I am here based in Germany. I mean, it really is very, very much. I mean, you have at one level, it's like, yes, I can understand. At another level, it's very annoying. I mean, when something is new, Facebook, internet, what do they tell you? They tell you about the danger of Facebook. You know, they're talking about, we talked about this a couple shows before, and they're still at it. You know, the internet Führerschein, the internet license, you know, to be on the internet. Are you aware of all the dangers that can happen? Yep. So, yes, privacy, very important, but I think it's a little overwhelming here, the discussion. I think somewhere in the middle, and I'm hoping that maybe through, you know, conversations, dialogues such as yours, it'll reach a point somewhere in the middle where it's just right. The future of small print, to quote one of my colleagues, Jonathan McDonald, he does a lot of work in this area, and I have to say one of the coolest graphics I'm going to put on the site is the future of small print is this, and it's just big letters. And I think that says it all. Yeah, great graphic, and I'll put on the site.
I love it. The future of small print is interesting 3 stories. I love that. That's why good diversity here brings us all together. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to jump in with Roberto Piracini. He's an author, and his book that is coming out in April is The Voice in the Machine. It's a book about the history of computers that understand speech. I'm doing this for 25 years. Roberto, that's who our guest is. We're going to jump right in there and have a great conversation with him right now. Well, it's that time again. The time where we bring on a guest, an expert, and today we have just that. In one of these boxes to my left and your right, we have Roberto Piracini, who has been in the voice space for 25 years. So before Siri, long before it was even an idea, long before any of these companies came out, Roberto was a speech technology, was the researcher at the speech technology department at CSELT back in the 80s, and has been a CTO at Speech Cycle, is now a director at ICSI, and he's also the author of a book that's coming out in April, The Voice in the Machine. It's about the history of computers that understand speech. We are so excited to have Roberto on the show to talk about this. Roberto, thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Really appreciate having you here. Boy.
All right. Thanks for inviting me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to answer your questions.
Well, you say that now, but just give us a second. In a moment, you're going to be running out the door. It's going to be the shortest interview ever. No, we are doing this these segments on. We spend an entire month devoted to voice and the impact that voice is going to have. And I can't think of a better person to finish this off with as somebody who's been in this business for so long.
Okay, Roberto, I'll jump in right there. You know, that's just the point, the time scale. We've been talking about speech for this month, of course, but beyond that, the conversation started pun not intended, in the 1950s. So we've been talking about speech. We've been talking about speech recognition. It took a long time. What took so long? You've been watching it. What were the barriers and what happened that we can actually now talk about it sort of being here now, almost in the mainstream?
So yeah, yes, really, speech research started in the 50s at Bell Labs in New Jersey, and they built a big machine the size of a room with resistors, capacitors, tubes, was consuming a lot of energy to recognize only 10 words, 10 digits. Now, why it took such a long time is because speech is a very complex phenomenon. Speech and language are extremely complex. We still don't understand how we humans can deal with that. So you can imagine how difficult it is for a computer to put instructions on a computer that would do that.
So can you tell me something about the trials along the way? And I mean, it's a computing issue, but I think it might also just be also a little bit more of a mindset issue, understanding what speech is good for.
Right. So there are a lot of issues with speech, right? So one of them, along the way, from the 50s and now, there have been a lot of attempts. There was the hype of artificial intelligence in the 60s, and then there were a lot of trials sponsored by government all over the world, and in Europe and Japan. And then people started finding out that the simplest methods, though they were called the brute force approaches, using a lot of data and a lot of computational power, were the most effective ones. While until in the 70s, in different parts like IBM and other companies started to look at the statistical method, which uses a lot of data, and that's what we are still using today. And then, as soon as we understood to do that, the powers of computers that was increasing every year, and the storage capabilities were increasing every year, did the trick. So now today we're using a lot of data, a lot of computing power to harness simple models to understand the complexity of speech.
How important is that? I mean, obviously, this is going to be a layman's question, a simple question, but how important is speech in computing? Humans built computers to process things faster than we can without their assistance. So is it a disconnect to now try to jam voice recognition in there, or is this just a natural progression for these machines?
I think it's a natural progression. I always go back to 1968 or 69 movies, 2001: A Space Odyssey. And you remember how the villain computer talks and it can understand and sees and everything. And you see how natural the conversation is if we use speech, right? Yep. So today we use keyboards, but also we use very small devices that we keep in our pockets. And the way I like to joke is that the devices are becoming smaller and smaller, but our fingers aren't. So it's always more difficult to type and to express what we want. And in natural language, for many things, not for everything, natural language is such a powerful tool that we can use for expressing very complex things in a short time and very effectively.
I mean, you're in research, Roberto, so you're seeing things. You're on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge. So you understand what we're grappling with and you understand where it's going. I used to do some usability tests about speech, mobile search, speech-activated mobile search, for example. And it was all about the background noise and the accent. I had a colleague of mine doing this as well, and she had a California sort of southern thing going on there. Those were the issues we had to face and overcome. Where are we now?
Peggy, you are right to the point. We are not far from where we were at that time. And these are still the problems that we need to solve. And that's what research is doing. Even if it is hidden, it doesn't have the flashy appeal of applications you can see on your smartphone. Research is working hard to try to solve this problem. Humans are way much better dealing with noise situation. Think about a cocktail party. We can communicate with people at a cocktail party. No one understands how we do that in noisy situations, in a noisy restaurant. with people with a strong accent like me. You can still understand me, right? So we don't know how to do that. We don't know how we do that. And so there is a big wealth of research trying to do that. Now, we do that here at ICSI and in other academic research places, in the industry, everywhere. And once we will be able to solve these problems, we could really communicate with machines the way we communicate with humans.
Follow-up, you say we're focused on that. That's what we're trying to tackle. Those are still the issues. I mean, you're sitting there in the inside of this now at Berkeley, Roberto. Can you give us any sort of, I wouldn't say inside track on what you're doing, but can you give me an idea of where your thinking is, where the work is, what the research is doing?
Yeah. For instance, we use extremely simple models that mimic the human ear. Now, the human ear is so much more powerful than what we do. The perception we have, the inner ear, the cochlea, and the brain work and do fantastic things in speech and can reduce noise, can get to the core of what we say, and we're trying to model that, so making more sophisticated models. The models we use to represent phonemes and sounds, the sound of speech, are extremely simple. So the power of it today is the power of brute force. We have a lot of data, infinite data. We have almost infinite computer power. But the simplicity of the model makes the improvement and improving the accuracy very difficult. So we are looking at a more complex model of that. And finally, the natural language aspect. We are very limited, very poor models of natural language. Try to talk into Siri, which is an extremely beautiful work in engineering. Siri is fantastic, but try to say something quite complex, and Siri won't understand it. Not because it's dumb, but because the models we're using for expressing natural language in computer are very simple, and we're trying to build more sophisticated, more complex models.
Let me ask that about the mobile side here, because obviously Siri has created this buzz, this resurgence of voice, right? I mean, it's not new. Nuance has been on the device since the first iPhone, and we've been doing like Dragon dictation on the desktop forever. But I mean, for some reason, when Apple puts something out, you know, like something like Siri, it's revolutionary. It changes the way you do things. But is that really truly speech recognition, or is that command recognition? And do we start to see the potential of the cloud really accelerating true speech recognition on the mobile device?
Right. So in an application like Siri, and any application like that, there are two parts we need to think about. One is speech recognition, which is pretty much the capability of going from the sounds to the words.
Yep.
Like if you, for example, look at Google voice search, that's what it does. Whatever you say, you see that appearing in your text box, and that feeds a Google search, and you get, like you typed something, right? Now there is a second part, and that's what Siri added to the equation, is the understanding of the meaning. So you go from the words to what you mean. So if you say, I want to watch a movie with Clint Eastwood, it understands that you want to watch a movie with Clint Eastwood, which is different than typing the same query on Google, because it can tell you, well, we have this movie playing in Berkeley, and there are other movies playing in San Francisco, and so forth. So this is the difference between simple recognition and speech understanding. Now, I expect that this capability will become more and more important. So it's not simple command and control, what people say command and control, but it's more than that. It's trying to assign a meaning to what the word would say. Imagine after the question about Clint Eastwood, it shows me a list of movies, and they say, do you have anything closer to the place where I work? Right? Now, imagine what what is the reasoning that you need to do for answering a question like that. You need to understand where I work, you go to get the address, you know, to remember that I asked for a movie about Clint Eastwood, and correlate it to things and find a new solution. So that's real understanding.
So is mobile really the tipping point here? Like, because this has been going on for so long, and the research for this has been so long, and Kubrick had it in 2001, and we've longed for this, and then Star Trek had it as in the computer, right? Computer, do this.
Yeah.
So the longing for voice and that human interaction with computers through voice has been forever. But is it mobile that's the tipping point? Is it that really where it starts to accelerate, or is it because we're on the outside, we're not seeing what's really happening, and it already started accelerating 10 years ago, and this is just the natural course of action?
Yeah, like in every tipping point, there is a conjunction of many different causes, right? So one is the speech recognition and language understanding that is getting better and better. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. Mm-hmm. The other one is, Apple is a beautiful device. Everyone wants to have an iPhone, right? And having an iPhone that talks to you and you talk to is fantastic, right? So the other thing is, of course, Apple has great marketing. This is a great thing. The other thing is that we like to have applications. We get applications. We get applications from the market, so we have been using some type of speech even before Siri, right? With Google, and so we are used to the concept. Siri is funny. It is fun to use it. Now the risk, which I see, is that this is a hype right now. If we don't keep up with the promise of that, we will have another winter of speech recognition. And we don't want that because we like the summer.
I love it. That's a great way of putting it. It is. And so if you guys who have been in this industry for so long have been sitting and almost waiting for this moment, haven't you?
Right. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, we could build something like Siri 20 years ago. Right? And actually people did that. If you go in the early 70s, people at Carnegie Mellon University, at MIT, and other places, they built things that pretty much have the same capabilities of Siri, right? Now, the question is, and that you gave part of the answer, the fact that we have a mobile device that in our pocket that can access that and can make us, is entertaining, makes that a reality. Yes, we have been waiting a lot for that. And this is something that somehow puts a new energy into speech research. And yep, we are welcoming that.
Is the speed of our interest and passion around speech, is that good or bad? And the reason I'm asking that is because we've been waiting a long time. Now we have Siri. Now it's humorous. It's funny. We have Facebook pages dedicated to the jokes that it tells us. So that seems to be setting the bar. And it seems to say, as you just indicated right now, that's going to be the experience that we need to better going forward. Otherwise, we're just going to top it all back again. So, is this a good thing, I guess, is the question, for research and for progress?
It is a good thing. It is a good thing in the sense that now the attention of the whole world is on speech recognition. I get
the whole world's watching you then.
almost every day, or people say, oh yeah, we would like to build a Siri-like application. Everyone wants to build a Siri-like application. And it's bad in the sense that if we don't improve constantly, if we don't make it better and better, people will get tired of that. And we start making fun with cracking jokes, having little skits on Saturday Night Live or this type of things, and the thing will collapse again. Yeah.
All right. So what is going to happen in this space? Is it how much of an impact is this going to have on the way that we interact with our phones, our smartphones, and then the other appliances in our house or our car? I mean, does this are we about to see a rush of this stuff, of these applications everywhere now?
Yeah, I believe so. And that's, again, it's not new technology. That people started to do what we call multimodal interaction in the late 70s, early 80s at MIT and at Carnegie Mellon. There were a lot of demos. You can find them on YouTube. Think about going to your living room and say, "Oh, can I see the show that I saw yesterday? I like it so much. I don't remember its name." And the TV knows what you watched yesterday and knows how to tune on the same show and tells you what the episodes are and those type of things. And then you don't have any microphone. You don't have any, and you can point at things. You can point at appliances. You can say, microwave, can you, I want, the toaster this morning was a little bit too dark. Can you, you talk to your toaster or to microwave or type of things, right? So this is what we may see happen. We may or we may not, depending on, if we get into another winter, we won't. But I'm very hopeful. I hope that we're going to see us using speech and not remote controls, using speech and not keyboards, using speech in our cars, and being becoming that what many people call an invisible or transparent technology. Right? The mouse and the keyboard are invisible. We don't think about it. Just put our hands here, put our hands on the mouse. We don't think. They always work. They're always there for us. It would never happen that you move the mouse to the right and the pointer moves to the left. Right? Speech has been like that for many years. You say something, you say yes, and the computer understands no. Right? So that's what prevented speech to be mainstream. Now, if we start interacting with applications that really work, really help us, we will see a different scenario.
So in that scenario, Roberto, I'm just wondering, because it sounds like speech is going to be like the ring, it brings it all together, one to rule them all, which would be awesome. But at the same time, we have the reality that there are a lot of divergent platforms, and we talk about convergence, we talk about bringing them together. Does this mean convergence of these platforms, these devices, or does it mean diversity and maybe divergence?
I think there will be a convergence. Like, today you can buy any keyboard and connect it to any computer. You don't even think about that, right? And the industry will progress if those standards. So there are also standards, right? So the fact that you can plug a keyboard into any computer because there is a standard regulating the communication between your keyboard and your computer. The fact that today, finally, you can buy any cell phone and charge it with any charger. Remember a couple of years ago, was a nightmare. It's because there are standards, right? There's a standard that any cell phone can be charged with pretty much any charger. Now, that will happen in speech. If that doesn't happen, the industry will have a lot of time to grow. Right? So all the companies who work in speech, they should get together and create standards. Otherwise, it will be very, very difficult for the industry to grow the market.
Of course, as a follow-up, a little bit of a devil's advocate question here. I mean, when you think about how other guests, for example, Bill Mizell telling us that speech is the next battlefield, it's where there's going to be a lot of market share, there's going to be a lot of money. It's hard to imagine everyone sort of saying, kumbaya, let's hold hands, let's all have standards, and let's make this work, because then there's no differentiation to charge the money for. So I'm wondering how that fits in with reality. So that was my observation.
It is not really true, right? Think about DVD players, or think about the old VCR machines. Actually, it's probably the opposite. When there was many years ago, there was a war between VCRs. Yeah, they had different standards, Betamax and Sony, and then they decided on one, which probably was not even the best one. But then the industry flourished. No one prevented different companies, Sony, Samsung, other companies, to build better and better VCRs and then better and better DVD players with different features. So I can see, right, the speech, there will be companies addressing banking, for instance, or addressing customer care, like the company I worked for before, Speech Cycle, is using Siri-like applications to address customer care. There will be application companies addressing entertainment. Think about talking to a movie, right? You watch a movie and you indicate, who is this actor with your finger? Who is this actor? Think about that for entertainment. Think about video games. Think about travel. Think about machine translation. Think about you're traveling to a country where you don't speak the language, and then you pull out your smartphone and you speak something, and your voice comes out exactly with the same tone of your voice, but in Chinese or in Korean or in any other language. So this the battlefields where other companies will compete, and there will be a competition for the best. Who is providing the best quality? who's providing the best application, but the most useful application. So I don't see that. I see actually the opposite. Standards will help that.
I got a question. Just, you know, when you bring that up, it's very interesting to start to think about the implications of voice. Is voice solid enough as a fingerprint, so that for security and identity and protection of identity theft and all of these things that a lot of people are frightened about around the mobile device? You know, if I lose my phone, look what just happened with Google and the Google Wallet, and how easy it is to breach the Google Wallet. So, you know, is this that next elevation of security and privacy by just using voice?
What we call speaker verification is a technology that allows you to verify that just listen to your voice, that you are who you claim to be, has made a lot of progress in the past in the past decades. However, it's not because of the nature of speech, right? It can become as perfect as fingerprinting, right? Because, you know, there are people who can imitate my speech, your speech, and you know, they can get away with that, right? So, but it is good enough. It is much better. This is one of the areas where the technology is better than humans. Speaker verification is better than humans, but there is a possibility of error because of the nature of speech. So when it is associated to other security strategies, like you can say a word and no one else knows, you know, the name of your best friend in high school, or other things and then your speech associated with that secret information can make it a quite good security strategy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. All right, Roberto, you've got a book that's coming out in April 2012. The book is The Voice in the Machine. And it's we've got here. It's a book of the history of computers that understand speech. Talk about this. It's done by MIT Press.
Yes.
Give us a quick overview of this book. Fascinated.
The book starts talking about speech and how complex speech, how complex language, and why children can learn language in just a couple of years. That's a miracle, right? It's a miracle, and we've been trying to build machines for decades, and we cannot do that, right? And then progresses with the history of speech technology, which strangely enough started in late 1700 with a scientist called von Campelen, who built a talking machine made of rubber and gears and bellows, and it was pushing air into a pipe and like that. So then in the 50s, there were Bell Labs, and the 10s, they using artificial intelligence, using rule-based systems, expert systems, and then statistical models. Until today, we have a business. We have an industry. So the last part of the book is about the business of speech, the industry. How did the industry start? The story of AT&T, the story of the speech effort at AT&T, the story of SpeechWorks and Nuance, the story of Dragon, and all these things came into what we see today. And that is the last chapter, which I wrote very quickly a few months ago, is about Siri. So that's and it's called Siri. What's the meaning of life? And of course, everyone knows that the meaning of life is 42, right?
Exactly. I love it. I love it. And this is coming out in April. And is it going to be widely distributed?
Pardon me?
Is it going to be available on Amazon.com?
Yeah, it's already on Amazon on pre-order. And it's, you know, writing a book is like having a child, right? It's something that you get so attached to. And for years, I couldn't think of anything else than my book. And now I'm so excited to see it in physical things, in paper. I'm gonna get the first copy tomorrow, so it's I'm so excited about it. It's like having a new child, right? So
that's right.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, Roberto, I really appreciate this. I am I think both Peggy and I are so fascinated by this evolution and the fact that something as simple as Siri is going to have such a big impact on the mobile industry. And a lot of companies, maybe were caught blindsided. I'm not sure why. Google has been building speech into their web products forever, and they were the first to bring it into the mobile space, built into the operating system. And Siri's a laggard, but for some reason, Siri's captivated our imagination and has propelled your industry into the limelight. And what I'm hoping is exactly as you said, that this isn't hype. And this isn't just like a hype curve and then, the trough of despair, that this is actually something that continues down the road and actually grows. And we're finding great use of voice and that human-computer interaction going forward. And you've been in this space for a long time. So my hope is that these are these days that are about to embrace, and there's a lot of innovation that comes from this. So I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much for being a guest here. And I can't wait for your book. We're going to include a link up there where you can pre-order it.
That's great. Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys.
Roberto,
thank you.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Roberto Piracini, who is the director of the ICSI. He's the author of the upcoming book, The Voice in the Machine. It's about the history of computers that understand us, understand our speech. The link is up there if you want to pre-order that. It's coming out in April. It's done by MIT Press. Roberto, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Well, what can we say about Roberto? He's just an incredible guy, deep set of knowledge, and you can understand we could have probably carried that conversation on forever and ever and ever and ever. But I'd love your feedback on that conversation. So reach out, untethered@gmail.com. You can reach Peggy. It's just Peggy@mobilegroove.com. We'd love your feedback, love your comments on that. And if you have anything that, I loved it because, there's a little bit of conflict there. From our last guy around Bill Mizell around whether or not this is going to be the next battlefront for revenue, and I love that question that you asked. So you can start to see it. It's like the sides are being drawn. It's like anyway.
I thought it was fascinating. Just to interject as a thought that he was pointing out that there's a lot of opportunity in the verticals, and if we can focus on these various verticals, you'll have companies that are just specialized in me talking to my TV. I mean. That's fascinating, and that's also good news for all of these startups that we, find, salute, and try to profile here now on the show and going forward. I'm hoping to get some of those brains in here, get some of those ideas in here.
Well, I think so, and boy, oh boy, I mean, it was so fascinating, and this is one of the things. Like we've dedicated this month to voice, but we might have to come back to it at the end of the year to really do a review on voice and see exactly what's going on because. As Roberto said, it's what we're hoping is that this isn't hype, this isn't a cycle. We've got to maintain this thing, and we got to move it forward, or else we'll lose the interest of the public, and it'll go back into what did he call it? The voice winter, the winter, the voice winter, the winter of voice, and he doesn't want that. We don't either. All right. Well, the only thing left is to raise the goblet of rock.
Yes. So, raising my goblet.
Well,
I'm on this time, Rob, I think.
Yes. Well, you can have this one. I just like bringing out the Springsteen, and the Elvis.
I love it. And I tried to get tickets, man. I really, really did.
Yeah,
He's singing in Cologne, but
I tried, but I never, we tried for Madison Square Garden, but we'll get there. I'm pretty confident that we will get to see Bruce Springsteen this tour. And he was on the Grammys. Anyways, how do I always talk about Bruce Springsteen? I don't know. Because
you raised the cup, and it's just this automatic knee-jerk reaction with you. It's like, Pavlov.
All right, okay. What are the companies that you're going to be talking about today?
Okay, so I still have some left over from my M Days show because I really like this. I like these shows where you go and you say, I'm just going to check it out, and that's where you find the coolest stuff. True. I mean, and I'm going to go every year now from here on through. And so I found two companies. One is AppZap, and these are two, German-based companies. So AppZap, and what it does is, on the face of it, it's a search engine, an app search engine that basically tells you, because it's been tracking the price of apps, it's tracking the bargains for you. And interestingly enough, the company has great traction. They have a huge base of customers in China. Make of that what you will. And they're just gathering traction. They've got some great stats that I hope they put to some great use because it tells us a lot about the apps that we like. And on top of that, there's a community around the apps so we can actually discuss them. And it's that social element and that stats element I find very exciting. And of course, if you're looking for a bargain, I mean, AppsApp will tell you cheap apps, right? So that's one. And then I have AppRupt. So we got two app companies here, obviously. And AppRupt is a mobile ad network based in Germany with a lot of focus on media companies and German media companies that are also very strong here in Europe. But what I like about it is, first of all, I met the guys, very innovative, yet very young company. I like that when the company isn't, suit and tie. And came up with, in addition to all the other calls of action that I've heard about, there's click to call and all the others, they thought of click to calendar. And I hadn't heard of that. So I don't know if it's truly the only one, but I will say it caught my eye because click to calendar means I see an ad, I click it, and that ad, that advertiser goes into my calendar. So if it's about a TV show, or it's about, a Formula One racing, whatever, it'll go into my calendar. It will become integrated within my phone. It becomes part of my life. And isn't that what brands want to do anyway? So I thought that was very innovative. Click to calendar. What a cool way to become inserted in my life. So there we go. That's my two companies. Goblet of rock. Raise it to you.
All right. We've raised our goblet. We've sat down with Roberto Piracini to talk about voice. We've highlighted the key things that we think are relevant in this industry. Some relevant news that's happened in the last little while. Some statistics. Some bigger trends that are going on. What a show! We hope you like it. Come on. Next week we have, as I said, we're going to finish off voice. It's my turn on the Goblet of Rock. We've got Ken Harper from Nuance. You might know Nuance because you probably have Dragon Go on your device right now, or you've used Dragon Dictate on your computer. So Ken is going to be here to talk. He's our last guest on the voice side, and it's obviously a great concept is to bring in a product, which I love. And he'll be here, and that's it. So will we for episode number 7 next week. Is that right?
Yeah, lucky 7. Hey.
Oh, goodness. Lucky 7. Peggy, where can people find you?
They find me over at mobilegroove.com. And also every Monday following when you post, because we go live with the show on Fridays, then they have the analysis over at Mobile Groove and also, of course, over at Untethered TV.
It's wicked. We got this thing in a roll. You guys can find me at untethered.tv or at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. We will see you next week. This time, whenever you're watching this, just come back a week later and a new episode will be there. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. Peggy, see you next week.
Keep it good.